Hello, welcome to another edition of this show. Earlier on today, I spoke to you about the importance of self care and why it's important for you to take care of yourself and stop saddling yourself with responsibility of taking care of people around you and to put value on yourself. So, in this series, I want to talk to you about healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries is a sort of demarcation or limit that you set for yourself from anything, situation, people, circumstances that can invade into your personal space to your own detriment or to the detriment of the other party. So, boundary is something that is very important. We first have to learn how to set boundaries for ourselves. And setting boundaries for yourself will include you understanding what are the things that you're able to do and the things that you are not able to do. In psychology, I teach my clients some things. As let me just give you a little background. I'm a mental health clinician. I'm a therapist, which you people in if you're watching from Nigeria, you call therapist. So I'm a mental health clinician. I'm licensed in the state of Maryland. I've been practicing my private practice for the past since 2018 thereabout. Yes, since 2018. So I have a very depth knowledge of what I'm talking about. And so boundary is something that is very important. Boundary is important because it helps you as an individual to know the maximum that you can go. It's like a red line, a thin line that's moving beyond that line is danger. So setting boundaries helps you to put yourself within your scope of functionality. And whenever we are working within the scope of our functionality, we tend to perform at our best, at our optimum. Anytime we move outside of that, the result is going to be opposite. So setting boundary for yourself, first and foremost, we entail you understanding yourself, understanding who you are. And if you have been following me in this series of moving beyond my brokenness, one of the two things I've talked about so far is our purpose and our identity. If you know your purpose and you know your identity, you will not be trying to be who you are not, which is stepping out of your boundary. You will know your limits. You will know what you can take on and what you cannot take on. You can be willing to do some things, but you are not able. A little child, 2-year-old, may be willing to carry mommy or daddy, but the child is unable to because mommy and daddy's weight is not meant for a little child to carry. But a little child may not be willing to carry our own feeding bottle, but he or she is able to. But because he or she is refusing to carry or lift his own little feeding bottle, the child is able but unwilling. So the same thing when it comes to you and I. There are some areas of our lives that you are able to do some things, but you may not be willing. And whenever you are not willing to do something that you are able to, then you're doing yourself a big disfavor, especially when it comes to your area of self-development. Okay. So boundary is a limit that you set for yourself so that you can stay within the functionality that will maximize your potential and your identity. Okay, so I want you to really delve within yourself or think within yourself. Are there things that I'm trying to drag that is that is beyond my limit, that is beyond my boundary? How has it been so far? If you're having difficulty pulling those things through, there is probability that you are pulling some things beyond your limit or beyond your boundary. Another thing that boundary is that boundary helps you, or boundary is a sort of demarcation that you also set between yourself and a relationship with another person. It means you know your worth, you know your limit. The other party or parties also know themselves and they know their limit. When you're able to know yourself and you know your limits and vice versa, it helps each other to complement one another, not oversaddling responsibility on each other and making it a dependable or dependent relationship or codependent relationship, so to speak, to put it in a psychological term. When we codependent on each other, it means you're not sufficient on your own, the other party is not sufficient on his or her own, and you're trying to just struggle with it. And whenever you, which means whatever is not going right in the life of this person rubs off in the life of the other party, and vice versa. Codependency is not a healthy relationship. It's not something that is or that can ever help you to attain your potential. So it all goes back to identifying what your purpose is, identifying what your identity is, identify the value that you have on yourself. And I said earlier in one of my posting that value is something that you put on yourself based on the worth of the qualities that you find in yourself, the qualities of the potentials you find in yourself. So if you're unable to identify any qualities or potential in yourself, there is tendency for you to not know your value. And when you don't know your value, you do not have accurate or respectable boundaries. Sometimes we mistaking boundary for love. Love is someone respecting you because you've been able to identify your own value, and they respect you enough to follow suit so that you don't get yourself stressed unnecessarily. But what we've heard or what people have called love these days is what we call the codependency, people depending on each other. I hear that a lot in love stories, and one of the favorite lines that I've heard is, I can't live my life without you. That's a fallacy. That's not a true love. That's not a true love. That doesn't really I know people say it to show their love, to depict their level of love. When it comes to reality living and successful living in relationship, love is you being able to live your life without the dependence of the other person, and vice versa. So you enhance each other, you use your strength combined together to bring the best out of each other. Okay, so when one person is unable to leave because of the other person, or oh, because of this person you can't do this, what you're doing is that you're making it uncomfortable for the other person to live their life to their fullest, because they are conscious of the way they're living their lives and how it's affecting you. And that does not endorse recklessness. All right. So what I'm trying to portray to us here is for us to understand the importance of setting boundary within ourselves, not putting up tasks that you're unable to do, learning to say no when you have to, giving yourself break when you have to take break, also taking time to reflect on yourself, recuperating yourself, not just going. You have to have a time where people around you know that this is your me time, and you don't feel guilty for spending your me time, or they do not guilt you for you creating time for yourself. So it is very important that we learn how to put boundary up. Boundary does not mean you're snubbing other people. That's a different thing completely. Boundary is just your yes is your yes, your no is your no, and people understand that if they break your values, they're gonna lose you. And because you know the qualities that you carry, they do not want to lose that relationship. And if they feel like you're not that important in their life, they want to go, it's okay to let people go. You cannot be afraid of losing people than tolerating their misconduct towards you, or tolerating their lack of boundaries towards you. There are different types of boundaries which I may not be able to tell you, this little time that I have for these clips. But if you feel like you have not been really taken seriously, if you feel like people, friends, family, they've never taken you seriously, before you actually question them, before you go fight them, so to speak, you want to check within yourself. What value have I set for myself? What boundaries have I set for myself? They say where there is no law, there is no sin. If you've not set boundaries for yourself, people know that they can call you anytime. 11 p.m., 12 midnight, 1 a.m., and you answer your call. There's no set time for you to say, no, it's 9 p.m. I do not answer phone calls after this time. I don't care who the person is, except it's an emergency. Where you make people call you and ask you, can you go to run this errand for me? You're readily accepting to be there for people at your own expense. You're not setting boundaries for yourself. And the day you start saying no, then you become a bad person. So you have to be able to have a voice to stand up for what is right for you first. Okay, because if you do not learn how to look out for yourself, who else is going to look out for you? Please, who else is going to look out for you? Even sometimes I've seen some people, when other people look out for them, they'll be the one to tell them, no, it's okay. You know, sometimes in relationship where the man or the woman is abusive to one another, and one, maybe a stranger or outsider is trying to advocate, they say, oh no, it doesn't mean so. That no. You have to have boundary to how you want people to tolerate you or treat you. You treat people as such. Anybody disrespects you, you give them a warning the first time. The second time, it's no longer a mistake, it's an intention. If you take it the third time, it's going to be an habit, and that's going to be the way they're going to be treating you. All right, you can never be afraid of losing people. I mean, gaining people. You can't be afraid of losing people at the expense of losing yourself. No, you can't. I say that again. You cannot be afraid of losing people, and at the end of the day, you lost your sense of worth, your sense of belonging. So I want to encourage you today to always set boundaries, healthy boundaries. In my next session, I will talk to you about type of healthy boundaries. Till I come your way next time, take care and take care of one another. Bye-bye.